Hey guys, welcome back to the Cantina. It's Stephanie, your friendly neighborhood barkeep. Please remember you haven't subscribed. Subscribe. Hit that bell so you know when I upload more content. Smash that like button. When you hit the like button, you will get notifications. And share away here. We share away here for love of Star Wars. Here's the up. Guys, welcome back to the Cantina. Today, we are going to be discussing what the Force is on Star Wars 101. And I'm doing this not only for those of us who are real Star Wars fans, who grew up with it, who were there at the beginning, who understand it, who haven't, bought into Disney's bullshit. I'm doing this for the people who have bought into it and don't understand Star Wars, don't understand what the Force is, don't understand what real good storytelling is, and they kind of need a little bit of education. So Sister Steph here, Professor Steph, is here to help you with that. So, taking the book, Star Wars, The Magic of Myth, which was the San Diego Museum of Art's, they sold it when they were doing the costume display from the Star Wars OT in the year 2000, which was kind of a big deal. I didn't get to go see it. I wish I had. I think it would have been a lot of fun. I think it would have been really cool to see, but, someday I will get to do it, maybe even go to Skywalker Ranch and actually really see the cool stuff. Give me Han Solo's blaster. That would be awesome, but hey. All right, so we all remember how in the first movie that was made, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, how Luke goes to find R2, who's looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. And Obi-Wan rescues Luke from the Sand People, takes him back to his hut, his little house, and goes on to give him Anakin's lightsaber. And he says it's a weapon of a Jedi Knight. We'll talk about what lightsabers really mean at a later date. So then Obi-Wan mentions the Force, and Luke goes, the Force? So Ben Kenobi says, the Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together. So we've got that. And let's see, the Jedi approach the Force, incorporates many concepts from Eastern philosophy, mostly Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Shintoism, you name it. And while remaining true to the classic Western value, the importance of the individual. So while the Force is binding the galaxy together, it is also allows individual Jedis to be who they are. Luke is Luke. Anakin is very much an individual. Obi-Wan, and of course Qui-Gon, who I think is probably the best example of that individual Jedi, and maybe even to an extent Count Dooku. All right. But every Jedi, and if you watch the Clone Wars, if you know anything about the history of Star Wars up until the prequels, and during the prequels, stuff that we didn't see in the movies, Clone Wars TV show, you will understand that each Jedi has a personality and an individual relationship with the Force. That's very Christian, very Judeo-Christian, very. Even Catholics have an individual relationship with Jesus. Okay, the individual relationship with the Force is the thing that helps the Jedi when he needs it most. It's the manifestation of his personality in many ways. So let's go on. Let's find more. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the dark and the light side. The light side of the Force is not used for aggression. It's used for defense. It's used for knowledge. It's used for it's used for wisdom. Whereas the dark side is used for power, ambition, evil, aggression. And we can see that throughout all of the prequel trilogy in the OT. In fact, if you look very carefully at how Palpatine uses the dark side to cloud the Jedi's judgment, what they're seeing, and who may or may not be the Sith Lord doing it, it's very interesting. Excuse me, I had to do a little, have a little sip there. Very interesting, because if you look at it this way, when Luke goes to the dark side during The Empire Strikes Back, basically Yoda says, don't take your weapons, just take yourself. Luke takes his weapons. The dark side is fear. The dark side uses your fear against you. The dark side will cause you to make rash judgments, impatience, blind judgment, rather than standing back from your fear and looking at the situation as a whole. Part of what some people believe and why Yoda was so concerned with Anakin becoming a Jedi wasn't that he was afraid of Anakin. He was afraid of what it meant. And that, again, of course, is the dark side clouding people's judgment. Fear leads to hate. Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to suffering. The dark side, right there. There it all is. So let's go a little more. Okay. We'll talk. Let's go a little more. Back to page 36. I should have read all that, but I didn't. Okay. So when Obi-Wan offers Luke the lightsaber, is of course just one of Ben's tasks as a guide. Now, we talked about the guide, the heralds, the mythical partnership, the heroes partners, Luke and Chewie and Leia. But let's go further. So Obi-Wan offers the lightsaber, which is of course one of his tasks as a guide, like I said. He also introduces Luke to the spiritual power known as the Force and to its dark side. The potential to use the Force for evil. So basically, if you're looking at Star Wars as a quest, and if you read Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, you realize that everything that Luke Skywalker did from the moment we meet him to the very end in Return of the Jedi was a quest, not only to find out his real identity, but to save the father that he didn't know he had. Basically, seeing the good and the light shining within the darkness that was Darth Vader, the light that was still Anakin Skywalker that was still there, and turning and bringing Anakin back, basically making him rise up and take back his position as the chosen one. Okay, that was Luke's quest. That was Luke's, and Luke was successful in that. So let's go further. Now that we know that the Force is part of the universe, that the Force is within everybody, that there is a bond between all creatures, but the Force manifests itself and is a partner to individuals as well. We have to, okay, all right. Okay, so how does Luke approach the dark side? Like his father, he's impatient. Like his father, He's reckless. Like his father, he craves excitement. Jedi craves not these things, quoting Yoda. So, what happens when Luke goes into the cave? Do you remember that? And he takes his weapons, warned that he should not have done that, but he takes it anyway, to begin to conquer those aspects, the impatience, the recklessness, the anger, the fear, the hate. Luke enters the tree cave, strong with the dark side of the Force. When Luke asks what is in the cave, Yoda says only what you take with you. Fear, impatience, lack of faith. These are all things that the dark side uses, that Palpatine uses against people. Okay? These are things that Palpatine used to manipulate not only Anakin Skywalker, but the entire Jedi Order. Okay? So, Yoda tells him only what you take with you. Luke girds on his weapons anyway. They symbolize his impatience and lack of faith, his indoctrination into the ways of violence and hostility in the outside world. But this is truly a descent into another spiritual labyrinth. For in the depths of the tree lies a revelation that Darth Vader is not some eternal evil presence, but the shadow side of Luke himself. What he could become. All right, this is big. The dark side of the Force lies within as well as without, but this is a message that Luke is not ready to understand or accept. All right, so we know what happens in the dark side tree. He gets into that fight with the manifestation of Vader, beheads him, the mask cracks open, and there's Luke looking back at him like, it's like, whoa, dude. So we understand more about what the Force is. And of course, you have Han in A New Hope basically saying, hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side. Han is very much of the world. And I'll get into the aspects of his character later this week, only because there's some things I want to address about that somebody stated on a friend's video channel here on YouTube, and it infuriated me. And I'm going to have to address it, okay, because it's utter bullshit. But if you look at the Force's amalgamation of the religions that we have here, our own mythologies from the Eastern philosophies of Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, Hinduism, etc., and Western philosophy, Christianity, Judeo-Christian and Judaism, paganism to a point as well, Western paganism, you will see that you can understand what the Jedi religion was about. Okay, some Jedis were stronger than others. Now, we can go into the midichlorian count. Who had the highest midichlorian count of all? Anakin Skywalker. All right, now some say Palpatine did, but Anakin was not as much a creation of Plagueis as he was a creation of the Force pumping up against Plagueis saying, no, you can't do that. Okay, Plagueis made it stir the pot, but the Force demanded that it have a share, and that's why Anakin is here, why he became. All right, now, why was Shmi Skywalker chosen? Why was Mary chosen? All right, it wasn't. What I find fascinating is I'm in the middle of reading Plagueis again, the Darth Plagueis novel, and choosing Shmi Skywalker to me is very interesting. Go back to how God chose Mary. But now we know how God chose Mary. All right, if you're Catholic, you understand that her birth with no mark of sin was why she was chosen to carry Jesus. Okay. Talking about Catholicism, that part of Christianity, and that. Okay. So it's very interesting how Shmi Skywalker was sort of that poor woman sold as a slave. On and on and on. All right. So what we have here is the beginnings of what Star Wars is, what the Jedi religion is. Everything from what they believed in, the light side, the code they lived by, the code the Sith lived by. Because if you look at Taoism, everything is in balance. The dark and the light and the dark. But what's interesting to notice when you look at that symbol, the white, there's a black spot on one side and a light spot on the other. Okay, that can be symbolized as the Force itself. That balance. And it is the quest to find the balance in order to keep everything in motion is what Star Wars, in some ways, kind of is about. So I had a really good time doing this. Next week, I will talk about lightsabers, kyber crystals, how they were made, where they came from, and why they're so important to a Jedi, and the difference between a Sith kyber crystal and a Jedi kyber crystal, because one is fake and the other one is natural. And there's a big difference. And there's a big, big, big reason why you need to pay attention to that. Okay? This is Steph sending out. See you around the galaxy. See you around the Cantina. Please remember to hit those wiki bartenders 20%. No fights in the Cantina. No gunfights in the Cantina either. You take that shit outside. No droids, no bounty hunters, and no Raylos. I'll see you around the galaxy, scoundrels. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't. Remember to hit that bell for more content. Remember to hit the like button and share away. We share away for love Star Wars. And I'll see you around with more content coming up next. Stephanie, I'll see you around the galaxy, scoundrel.